What is up? If you want to know how Nick has made 7+ figures, I'm going to say plus because I actually don't know the exact amount from simple low tech live videos, keep watching. I'm going to load up the group real quick. Make sure I'm seeing comments coming in. So if you're watching, let me know. This is going to be fun. I asked in the group a couple days ago if you guys wanted to learn this, and it was quite the reception for wanting to hear kind of the ninja stuff behind the scenes. So let's get this started. Oh, getting a little feedback here. One sec, friends. There we go. What's up, Jonathan? Figuring out tech here. The video guys figuring out tech. Okay, here we go. So what I'm going to be talking about today is kind of an overall principle that I think Nick inadvertently landed on to some degree, but at the same time has, maximized its potential. And the thing that's great about this for everyone who's watching is this doesn't require you go out and buy a fancy light or a fancy camera or make your background look fancy like mine. In fact, quite the opposite. And so I think I've got a whopping 3 slides here for you today. So it shouldn't be too long to go through. But if you watch this, I can guarantee you some ideas are going to just kind of start to go off in your head on ways that you can take your lives and actually make sales from them. Hey, AJ, great to see you. Okay, so I'm going to do the old share screen. Here we go. So the overarching thing that I talk about in all my teaching around live videos and video content in general is there is what you say, the words that are coming out of your mouth, and then there is what you're communicating. And a lot of people get hung up on having the perfect message, right? What they're saying is perfect. They've mastered the VSL, they've bought a template, they've hired a copywriter, whatever it is, and they just have that message honed in on the words that they're going to say. Where people don't necessarily spend a lot of time on is how they're actually going to communicate that. And I don't mean just mannerisms and eye contact and what they're going to do with their hands. I mean like the entire way that we are communicating when we are making videos, live videos, or recorded. So things like lights, cameras, audio, background, wardrobe, makeup, environment, all of these things are communicating something. And in a lot of cases, what someone is saying and what they're communicating are at odds. And so, I mean, a classic example is, and everyone watching this is definitely going to be familiar with, seeing a video testimonial of this person claiming to have made this much money because this program has given them X, Y, and Z, and then it's filmed in like their parents' basement. It's dark, it's dingy, it's cramped, it's small, and so there's a disconnect. I mean, it's a very literal example. We're going to be talking about some not so obvious ones, some subtle things that Nick has been doing. But at the end of the day, you want what you're saying and what you're communicating to mesh. And I've got a fun little technology thing here. Okay, I've got a little a thing to, I don't know if this is a metaphor. I don't know. A fun little example, I think, to really highlight what Nick is doing. So by the way, if you are here, I see some people watching. Let me know. And it goes something like this. So why is it when we go to a restaurant and we order something that we can technically make in our home, but when we go to the restaurant, it's so much better? And a classic example is like pasta. It's literally 2 ingredients. It's eggs and flours. And yeah, if you have stuffing and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's eggs and flour. It makes amazing pasta. Yet I try and make pasta, and I can go to the grocery store. I can buy the best eggs. I can buy the best flour. And then I make it, and it's too thin, or it's too gummy, or I didn't use enough of something, or I used too much of something else. I go to the restaurant, and it tastes amazing. And so the reality is, and this is all stemming from a simple, like my wife and I are heading to Copenhagen. We are going to a restaurant. It's called Noma. It's got 2 Michelin stars. It was rated the 2nd best restaurant in the world by Restaurant Magazine in 2019 and several years prior. And they're known for like really simple dishes that you and I can make in our home. So how does this restaurant take ingredients that we can go get at the grocery store and create dishes that technically we can make in our home, yet they win the restaurant of the year and they've got, they're 2 Michelin starred. How does that make sense? And ultimately, I think the analogy that makes the most sense is simply that there are, hey Manoush, great to see you. There are ingredients, there is a recipe, and ultimately there is an environment. And that's the kind of the secret sauce that is working behind the scenes in Nick's not so secret live video strategy. It's not so secret because I'm kind of spilling the beans right now. And so when you go back to pasta, there is how you treat, prepare, dish, and serve. Then you add in things like the environment, who you're with. Then you add in the music, the ambiance, the fact that in Noma, you have to book out months in advance. There's all these things happening behind the scenes. So it's literally not just the dish on the plate. It's also what is being communicated before I get to the restaurant, while I'm at the restaurant, and ultimately after, because now I get to brag to my friends that I've gone to this amazing restaurant. And so let's look at that analogy from the lens of Nick's live videos. And so I've summarized Nick in this case into 3 specific words. There's a lot more happening behind the scenes, but I really just want to talk about 3. And ultimately, the first word is student. So if I were to summarize, Nick as a lifelong learner, I think we would all agree, right? So he's constantly reading and becoming smarter, and then writing things out, and then rereading his notes, and just kind of, the next word, synthesizing, distilling everything he's learning into a form that he can share, right? He can go live and share all his synthesized recipes, is what I would call them. And he's doing it in an environment that adds a great deal to his live videos, and it all feels transparent. So if I were to sum Nick's not so top secret video formula, it's the ingredients, the recipe, and the environment all forming together. I'm seeing, again, more people. If you're here, let me know. No creeping without commenting. If I were to sum Nick's live videos into 3 things: student, synthesizing, and transparency, you've got ingredients, you've got a recipe, and you've got an environment, and it all makes for a video strategy that actually makes sales. And so I'm going to show you some examples now that I've kind of highlighted this into how this actually is like playing out. So if you go and watch any of Nick's videos, right, he is sitting there at his desk. That is, by the way, my kids just got home from school. That is primarily his location. So he is at his desk. But what is behind him? If you look, there's a very strategically open door where you see the library of constantly evolving books. If you go back to the 6 months ago to now, the books don't look the same. They're always shuffling. There's always new books being added, right? And so he is literally showing the fact that he is a student, a lifelong learner, in the setup of the bookshelf in the background, right? That's not that like unique in that just tons of bookshelves in video backgrounds, Gary V to our friend Chris Small, but again, it further highlights that he is a student. Next, for the synthesizing part, if you notice, there's always little notes around his desk, right? And there's always little, he goes on live, he'll load up a Google Doc, and you'll see kind of like scribbles, ideas, concepts, but these are not like professionally designed things. They look like, to some degree, like a mad scientist, just like figuring out all these things. Hey, Bill, what's up? Kira, great to see you. They look like all these things that, I would never understand, but somehow he's read these books, he's studied these papers, he's tested these ideas, and now they're being formulated into these concoctions of impact, is what that's a good way to describe them, like ways to help other business owners. And the other thing that's on the synthesizing part is he's got this, 30 plus roster of clients in the network, and he's learning from all these different niches and industries and business sizes, and he's coming to the table here in the group, and he's kind of sharing what he's learned based on all these things being combined. Again, it's a recipe. And then the last thing is transparency. So right now on this live video, I've got fancy light, I've got fancy camera, I've got a fancy background, all the things that I should have as someone who teaches people how to make money using video and how to make sales with live videos. But Nick has none of that. Nick has literally like a window. Sometimes he turns on these like kind of crappy lights, but really it's a window, it's a USB microphone, and it's his office. And his office is not treated at all. And yet, he still makes a bunch of sales on live videos. And it all comes down to the fact that Nick is one of the most transparent individuals I've ever met. And, you know, when you sign up to work with him and we're his client, we're part of the network, like you literally get the same person that you're getting on the Facebook Live. Sometimes he is bedhead. Sometimes he's wearing a button-up shirt. A lot of times he's wearing his RD shirt. Sometimes he's wearing a shirt that says Body by Bagels. There is nothing fancy about Nick. It's not how he operates his business. It's not how he recommends you operate your businesses as well. And so when I look at who Nick is, the businesses that he runs, his partners, his clients, and I were to summarize all that up into 3 simple words, right? Student, synthesizing, and transparency. That literally carries through his live videos. So all that to say, and I think I ran a little bit longer than I wanted to, but all that to say, again, going back to what you're saying, stop focusing so much on literally the words that are coming out of your mouth and start focusing. Phil, brutally honest will get people to move. It's exactly right. Start focusing on what you are communicating. In Nick's case, he's communicating that he's a student. He's communicating that he's synthesizing all these things into coherent thoughts for you and I, and that he is communicating that ultimately, like, what you get when you sign up is literally who's on this live video. I see time and time again, you know, in any group that I'm in, to be honest, from people who run the group to just Facebook pages and all that kind of stuff, like people are always trying to show that they're more impressive than they are, that they have more success than they do, and that they have a bigger house that is, you know, probably empty of furniture, and that they've got this car, but really it's leased. So is it their car? And at the end of the day, I think what Nick is a really good example of for all of us is simply just to show up on live videos who we are, to attract people who want to work with us in a way that we're actually going to enjoy because they like who we are. We don't have to put on a show and be fake to attract them and then keep up that show after they've hired us. So that is the not so secret. I really wish there was you know, a bunch more secrets behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's a really simple ingredient list, recipe, and environment to make this happen. The one thing I will say though is I am currently working with Nick because to date it's been loosely just kind of like organically formed. I am working with Nick right now, and I'm excited to talk about this. And you'll see this, you know, play out in the coming weeks to months. Is a couple of weeks ago I asked this group, I was like, hey, if you were to define Nick in a series of words, what would they be? And you guys had amazing suggestions on, you know, what you get from this group, who Nick is as a person, and you know, it was just a really great, diverse set of words really to describe Nick. But at the end of the day, there were some central themes, and so we pulled those themes together, and I've made Nick, you know, something that I do for my clients, which is a video profile, and now we're honing what Nick is actually going to be doing in a much more intentional way with his videos. And so we've got the words observant, practical, student, honest, and connector. And now I filled it in on exactly what he needs to do to come across like that. Because at the end of the day, there is, you know, if you're constantly in the same environment, you know, there's a little bit of a fatigue that sets in both from the person going live, wanting a change of pace, and the person watching it saying like, hey, I've seen this before. Even if they may have not seen it, they think they may have seen it. And so I'm working with Nick to actually get him out into some other environments, and this is kind of his cheat sheet. So we'll see in the next couple of weeks and months how this changes. We'll do an update. But at the end of the day, I really just wanted to go live and talk about this idea of just being super aware that you are communicating something when you go live, and we want that to mesh with what you're saying, because that's where the magic is. That's how Nick has built his businesses. That's why people line up to work with him. That's why people spend $10,000 a day to spend time with him. And they know who they're going to get before they even show up. And I think there's a lot of magic there. Hey, Ashley, I'm just hopping off, but definitely go watch the beginning of this. There's a lot of value here. Okay, friends, I hope everyone has an awesome Wednesday, and I hope to see you soon. Okay, ciao.